Dear students, this is 11th Zoology, Chapter 6, Respiration, Part 2. Dear students, last video class we have seen mechanism of breathing. Here this topic only we have seen. This is what picture of a diagram of mechanism of breathing. The next topic we are going to see is the one respiratory volume of respiratory volumes and capacities. Respiratory volumes and capacities. Okay, here. So, respiratory volume and capacity. This topic we are going to see. Respiratory volumes and capacity. What is respiratory volumes? The volume of air present in various phases of respiration is called respiratory volume. How this respiratory volumes can be calculated or measured? So there are few ways or other. We'll see what is TV, that is tidal volume. Here the TV means the tidal volume is the amount of air inspired or expired with each normal breath. That is we call as a tidal volume. Approximately we expire 6,000 to 8,000 milliliter of air per minute we expire. Expirations, yes, breathe out. We breathe out approximately 6,000 to 8,000 milliliter of air we breathe out. During vigorous exercise, the tidal volume is about 4 to 10 times higher than the normal one. The next one is the one IRV. What is IRV? Here, inspiratory reserve volume, which means the additional volume of air a person can inspire by forceful inspiration is called as a inspiratory reserve volume. If a person breathe in with additional air with forcefully, that is we call as a IRV. Okay, then the normal value is 2500 to 3000 milliliter. And next respiratory volume is the one ERV. What do you mean by ERV? Expiratory reserve volume. Here, the additional volume of air a person can forcefully exhale or breathe it or breathe out by forceful expirations is called as a ERV. The normal value is this one 1000 to 1100 ml. So we breathe out forcefully, that is we call as a ERV. Then what is RV? Residual volume. The residual volume of air remain in the lungs after forceful expirations. So few air will remain inside our lungs after we breathe out. That is we call as a residual volume. And it is approximately 1100 to 1200 ml. The next one is the one respiratory capacities. Respiratory capacities. Here, what is capacity? How much of how much amount of air can be filled. That is because of respiratory capacity. Here VC means vital capacity. The maximum volume of air that can be moved out during a single breath. The following maximal inspirations. Following maximal inspirations. Okay. So once if you breathe in means what happens? The maximum air just we breathe out. That is the say here. The maximum volume of air that can be moved out during single breath. The following maximum inspirations. The person first inspire maximally, then expire maximum. That is because a vital capacity. It's a formula for that one is the one VC is equal to ERV plus TV plus IRV. The next one is the one inspiratory capacity, which means the total volume of air a person can inhale after normal expirations. So after he breathe out, after he breathe out or breathe in, what happens? How much of air he expire is sent out. That is the one we call as a IC. Then next one is the one EC, expiratory capacity. The total volume of air a person can exhale after normal inspirations. After normal inspirations one. The next, these are the picture. The lungs volume as well as the capacity. You can go through that one. Here, total lung capacity. The total volume of air which the lung can accommodate after forced inspirations. Okay, once you breathe in heavily, that air will be stored in the lungs. It is called as a total lung capacity. The minute respiratory volume. The amount of air that moves into the respiratory passage per minute is called a minute respiratory volume. That is because a normal TV, the total volume, it's a 500 ml. They'll ask you one word, just underline. The normal respiratory rate is the one 12 times per minute. So the normal we breathe in is the one 12 times per minute. Therefore, minute respiratory volume is the one 6 liter per minute. Okay, per minutes we are breathing and breathe out. That's a 6 liters of air. Next is the one dead space. What is dead space? Some of inspired air never reaches the gas exchange areas but fills the respiratory passages where exchange of gases does not occur. There, this airspace is called as a dead space. Okay, here, once if we breathe in the air inside into our lungs, well, the lungs will be filled by gases, right? Once if the lungs filled, means the remaining gas which are filled and the respiratory way, that gases are said to be dead space. That gases will not be utilized by lungs. That gas will come out while we breathe out. Dead space is not involved in gaseous exchange. It amounts to approximately 150 ml. So this 150 ml of gas will not be utilized during respirations. The next one is about exchange of gases. Exchange of gases. Here, the primary site for exchange of gases in the alveoli. So, alveoli, where does this organs located? Means inside that lungs, the alveoli are present. Balloon-like structures. That is, we call as a alveoli. Here, I'll show you the picture. This is the structure of alveoli. Can you all see here? So this alveoli is the primary site for the exchange of gases. The uptake of oxygen and release of carbon dioxide occurs between blood and tissue by simple diffusion, driven by partial pressure of gradient O2 and CO2. The partial pressure is pressure contributed by an individual gas in a mixture of gases. It is represented as partial oxygen and partial carbon dioxide. Due to pressure gradients of oxygen from alveoli enters into the blood and release the tissues. So once we breathe in oxygen, that oxygen will go into the lungs of alveoli. From that alveoli, that oxygen they'll shift to blood cells. That's a RBC. That RBC carries that gas and delivered to the different parts of the tissue. And CO2, which are present in the tissue, they are carried back into the lungs and they sent out. That's what they say here. The carbon dioxide enters into the blood from the tissue and reaches alveoli for eliminations. What do you mean by eliminations? To send out, sending out the carbon dioxide, that is because of elimination. As the solubility of carbon dioxide is 20 to 25 times higher than the oxygen. The partial pressure of the carbon dioxide is much higher than the of O2. The next topic we'll see hemoglobin. Hemoglobin. This is what the hemoglobin, respiratory pigment. As you learned in the lower classes, why a blood or red in color means due to presence of hemoglobin. Here, hemoglobin belongs to class of conjugated proteins. Conjugated proteins. The iron contains pigment portions called heme. So that constitute only 4%, and rest colorless proteins, globin. That is a 96%. That proteins, that's globin, belongs to called histone. That's a type of proteins, histone class. The hemoglobin has a molecular weight of 68,000 Daltons. 68,000 Daltons, and contains 4 atoms of iron, each of which can combine with the molecules of oxygen. Here hemoglobin means heme means the blood, globin means the proteins. Here that iron contain a pigment called as a heme, that is a 4%. The globin they contain 96%. Here each that hemoglobin they can bind with 4 oxygen. Each hemoglobin they can bind with 4 oxygen. Normally RBC cells contain less than 1% of methemoglobin. Okay, next one is the one methemoglobin. If the iron components of hemoitis, which means hemoitis, in the ferric states, then the normal ferrous state, it is called as a methemoglobin, which means if the iron components is the one hemoitis, that is the ferric state. Okay, that is the ferric state. In the blood, it must be in the ferrous states. That's the normal positions in the blood. If the blood are in the ferrous state conditions only, where that hemoglobin can bind with oxygen. If in our blood, if they are in the ferric state and they have problem of binding the hemoglobin with oxygen, That is because of methemoglobin. Methemoglobin does not bind oxygen. Normally, RBC contains less than 1% of hemoglobin. That is because of methemoglobin. The next topic is the one transport of gases. Transport of gases. Here, how gas is going to be transport. That's what we are going to see. You can go through this tabular column. Here, this is the respiratory gases of oxygen and carbon dioxide, the atmosphere, and alveoli, deoxygenated blood, and oxygenated blood they given here. You can go through the for one mark point of view. They'll ask you the respiratory gases. O2 means oxygen, CO2 means you know this one. The atmospheric air oxygen is 159, whereas carbon dioxide is 0.3. The alveoli, the oxygen will enter in the amount of oxygen will enter is the 104, and carbon dioxide 104 millimeter hemoglobin. Hg means hemoglobin, and carbon dioxide is the 140, and deoxygenated blood in the oxygen is the 140, whereas carbon dioxide 45, and oxygenated blood in the oxygen is the 195, carbon dioxide 40, and the tissues oxygen will be present 40 percentage, and carbon dioxide will be present in the tissues 45 percentage. Just go through this one. The next topic we are going to see is the one transport of gases. Transport of gases. Here, the transport of gas takes place in the two methods. One is oxygen, another is the one carbon dioxide. We'll see first one, transport of oxygen. The molecular oxygen is carried in blood in two ways. I can underline the two ways. Two ways bound to hemoglobin within RBC cells and dissolve in plasma. So carrying of oxygen to the cells, they taken two methods. The hemoglobin they bound with the RBC cells. That is the one method. Second method is the one they dissolve oxygen in the plasma. Oxygen is poorly soluble in water. Oxygen is poorly soluble in water. So only 3% of oxygen is transported in the dissolved form. Only 3% of oxygen only dissolved form. Okay, 3% of oxygen is only transported in the dissolved forms. Oxygen will be just mixed, dissolved. Okay, in 3% only. And 97% of oxygen binds with the hemoglobin. So out of 100, 3% of oxygen dissolved they carry or they transport in the dissolved form, whereas 97% of oxygen they bind with hemoglobin in a reversible manner to form oxyhemoglobin. In a reversible manner to form oxyhemoglobin. What is the oxyhemoglobin? The oxygen which are loaded with the hemoglobin, that is because of oxyhemoglobin. The rate at which hemoglobin binds with oxygen is regulated by partial pressure of oxygen. So, how this oxygen will go and bind with hemoglobin means due to partial pressure of oxygen. Each hemoglobin carries maximum 4 molecules of oxygen. 4 molecules of oxygen. In alveoli, high partial oxygen and low partial carbon dioxide. You see in the alveoli. Alveoli means, as I told you earlier, that's one of the parts which presents in the lungs. When the air goes in the alveoli, during that time, the high partial oxygen will be there and low partial carbon dioxide will be there, and low temperature also will be there, and less hydrogen concentrations will be there. In favor, the formations of oxyhemoglobin, whereas in the tissues, they form, just mark it as two differential. In the alveoli, they have high partial oxygen, P means partial, and low partial carbon dioxide, low temperature and less hydrogen concentration. That is in favor for the formations of oxyhemoglobin. If oxygen going to bind with the hemoglobin, mean the alveoli should have high partial pressure, high partial oxygen pressure, and low partial carbon dioxide, and low temperature and less hydrogen ions. Whereas the tissue So this, whatever I say, the oxyhemoglobin takes place in the alveoli. Whereas in the tissue, low partial oxygen must be there, high partial carbon dioxide must be there, and high hydrogen must be there, and high temperature should be there. If all these conditions, if it is favorable, means the dissociations of oxygen will takes place. That is because of oxyhemoglobin. What does dissociations means? The oxygen as well as hemoglobin will be separated. That is because of dissociations of oxygen from oxyhemoglobin. What do you mean by oxyhemoglobin? The hemoglobin are just bind with oxygen. That is because of oxyhemoglobin. When they are in the normal conditions of in a higher alveoli pressures of the oxygen and low carbon dioxide and low temperature and less hydrogen. This is in this situations only oxyhemoglobin will take place. Oxyhemoglobin means oxygen will bind with hemoglobin. That is because of oxyhemoglobin. When it goes to tissues, during that time the low partial oxygen must be there, high partial carbon dioxide must be there, high hydrogen ions must be there, high temperature must be there. If all this case is there in the tissues, mean there will be dissociations of hemoglobin or dissociations of oxygen. Oxygen will be removed from the hemoglobin. That hemoglobin, that is to say as a, that takes place in the tissues. The next one is the one sigmoid curve. Next one is the one sigmoid curve. What is sigmoid curve? Here I'll show you. The sigmoid curve can be plotted in the graph. Here this is a partial pressure of oxygen, x-axis, and here this is the y-axis is the one percentage saturations of hemoglobin with oxygen. The x-axis how much of oxygen just they bind, and here the percentage of saturation means how much of oxygens bind and remaining percentage of hemoglobins are there. That is what we're going to measure in the y-axis. A sigmoid curve S-shaped is obtained when percentage saturations of hemoglobin with oxygen is plotted against partial oxygen. This curve is called as a oxyhemoglobin. When percentage of saturation hemoglobin with oxygen plotted, here oxygen is there, x-axis, and y-axis is the hemoglobin is going to be bind. While the oxygen they bind with the hemoglobin, they form sigmoid curve or S-shaped curve. This curve only called as a oxyhemoglobin dissociations curve. The S-shaped curve has a steep slope for partial oxygen values between 10 and 50 milligram of Hg hemoglobin. Here, if you see 10 in x-axis and goes to up to 50 of y-axis. 50, 10 to 50. Take 10 measurement of that x-axis, the partial pressure of oxygen before the 20 year, this parts. Okay. The 10 x-axis measurement of 10, whereas in the y-axis, this is the y-axis. The y-axis just take 50 above the 40. If you observe this curve, it goes to steep slopes for partial oxygen values between 10 and 50 millimeter hemoglobin. Then it is flattened between 70 and 100 milligram hemoglobin. 70, just take here 70 from here to, this is a 70, x-axis is 70 here. This is what we call as a 70, and it goes to up to 100 as a flattened one, When oxygen is going to bind with the hemoglobin, during that time they have sigmoid curves. That values only they say here 10, x-axis is the 110 measurement, whereas the y-axis is the 150 measurements, 50 milligram hemoglobin. During that time, the sigmoid curves is the one steep slope, whereas the 70 measure percentage of here x-axis 70 percentage, and just observe up to 100 milligram of hemoglobin percentage of y-axis, and it shows the flattened between 70 and 100 millimeter Hg hemoglobin. Under normal physiological conditions, every 100 milliliter of oxygenated blood can deliver about 5 ml of oxygen to the tissues. Oxygen to the tissues. One. With this, just we'll wind up our class. Just learn. Today's your homework. Today, 1 11 2021. Just learn this 5 marks. Just copy in your classwork. What is respiratory volumes and capacity? Just learn this important 5 marks. And also learn and just write in your classwork what is hemoglobin, what is methemoglobin, and one more 5 marks. Just learn what is or how transport of oxygen takes place in the sigmoid curve. Just learn this 2 5 marks questions and 2 2 marks questions. Just write in your classwork and bring when the school reopens after Diwali. Okay, bye. Take care.